Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today, we have somebody that's actually killing it right now in the real estate business while a lot of people are struggling. My friend, Mr. Logan Fullmer from San Antonio, Texas. Are you from San Antonio, Logan?
I am now, but I grew up in Temple. But yeah, been here 10 years after the oil field.
Okay, oil field. So tell me about the oil field, man. What were you doing in the oil field?
I was trying to refill my bank account. I was trying to get a job and build some self-esteem. It was like a place to become a man.
How do you get in the oil field? Let's start with that.
A friend of mine that I went to college with was out there and earning a good living, and he'd seen me just bouncing around from thing to thing and nothing really stuck. And he said, "Why don't you come work with me?"
And did you work on the service side or on the rig side?
So construction is what I was doing. So once a well would be completed, we'd come in and build the pipelines or the storage tanks.
Okay, so you were on that's called what? Upstream? It's considered upstream, right?
This is midstream.
Midstream. Right in the middle of it. So I was a subsea engineer, and I did that for quite a while. I worked offshore, I don't know, man, all over the world, setting wells subsea. So that's why I can relate to becoming a man on one of those rigs, right? And how do you get into real estate? Like is that something you did while you were in the oil field, or did it come afterwards?
Yeah, I was working and earning money, and I basically inherited 7 figures years before then, and bad lifestyle, poor choices, and all that. I'd burned through almost all of it. And when I went to oil field, I had about $5,000 left in my checking account. That was I was at the bottom.
I guess you had a lot of fun. Huh?
Man, it was, but I wish I was living like this then. But this is fun too. Anyway, when I got to oil field, I'm like, oh crap, I'm broke. I got to get away from broke. And when I saved for a couple of years and worked hard, and then finally I'm like, all right, I worked my whole life to earn a retirement, but maybe I can do it faster. And I wanted to take another run at, life. But this time I want to start investing with what I'd saved.
What's crazy is and I'm glad you share this with me and with everybody listening to this podcast, is that you just told me you inherited 7 figures, and you literally, I don't know what you did, but you party, you spent it, you bought toys, whatever the lifestyle was, right? But there's this one particular thing, Logan, about people that are exposed to that kind of money, all right? And it's the financial thermostat. So what happened when you got that money is that your financial thermostat got raised to a certain level, and you got used to living a lifestyle of a certain level, right? However many those 7 figures were, there's no difference in between 1 million and 8 million, in my opinion. They're all 7 figures. But you mentioned something. You said, okay, I ran out of money. I have $5,000 in my bank account. And then I went and got me a job in the oil field to see if I could put my life together. And I'm pretty sure you make good money in the oil field, because if you're smart enough, you can make multiple 6 figures. I've seen some people make millions, but they're usually the owner of the field, or they own the service company or something along those lines, right? But it got you ready for millions, because now you're used to millions. And look at what you're doing today, right? You're doing real estate, and you're doing it at a very high level. So in a way, that inheritance got you a taste of what was going to come afterwards that you were going to be chasing. So
it did.
So how did you get into real estate while you were in the oil field? Like what was your transition there?
At that time, I was really unsophisticated, but I was more worried about the downside than the upside. I'd blown all this money, and I thought, gosh, the last thing I want to do is get into investments that don't do well, and I lose the money again. So I decided to buy land just on a whim downtown San Antonio, because this was 10, 12 years ago. You could buy a downtown vacant lot for $5,000 to $10,000, and it's got a water meter, it's got curbs, it's got streets. Like, there was a house there, and 1 in 5 lots were vacant back then. Like, they'd been bulldozed, and it was a bad area that was slowly starting to turn over. And I thought, man, I could buy a single family lot for $5,000. The worst case scenario is if this doesn't boom and go crazy, then at least I could sell it for what I got in it and break even, or maybe lose a little, but not the whole thing. I felt good. So I spent a couple $100,000 buying a couple dozen lots, 5 and 10 grand at a time, knocking on doors. And I was hoping it was going to go up where I was going to build houses or something. But the taxes were low on those lots. So I thought I can run this for a while. So I'd go work for a couple weeks in the oil field, earn some money, come back, buy a lot. Go work for a month or two, come back and buy a couple lots. And a special thing happened. I'd built these and I was busy working and I wasn't watching the market. I was buying them by knocking on doors, by looking up names in the appraisal district. And I got a call from a realtor and I think it was into 2014 or early 15. He offered me for his client $200,000 for a lot that I was in for like $20,000.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, this is how much I've spent buying all these lots. I'm about to recover 60, 70% of that.
All your investment, yeah.
Whoa. And it also told me the rest of his portfolio was worth a lot more than I thought. So that was a big change.
Wow. Did you learn from somebody on how to do that, or were you just winging it?
Man, one of my favorite sayings these days I heard from somebody on the internet, no one knows what they're doing. Some of us do it anyway. I didn't have a trainer. I didn't have a coach. I was like, I want that lot. I got to find the owner. I'm going to offer money. I'll get a deed. Like, that's how I do it. I just went door knocking, man.
That's how I did it too, man. I was just too stupid not to do it. And I went and bought a house for like $13,000 in Pasadena, Texas. I used to live in Houston at the time. Try that today, right? So, I went and got a house for 13 grand. And I mean, this house was like on the side, man. It was like, on a pyramid, but the foundation was gone. And it cost me $60,000 to fix it at the time. This is 2008, 2009 now. But that should have been a $35,000 rehab. So guess where the other 30 went, right? To contractors that never finished the job, that got fired. That's how I became a contractor. So we got that much in common. I was winging it, man. There was no coaches at the time. I didn't know where to find them or meetups or anything like that, right? So now let's fast forward, man, because we can be talking real estate for hours here, but I really want to get a lot into what you're really good at, which is all these weird deals, man. Like, and I've done a few of those deals, but I want to learn more about, how it is that you find these particular deals that are messy. Like, I did a property one time that I bought 75% of the rights of the property, and I had to go and sue the guy that owned the other 25%. He just happened to be in prison in Oregon, and he didn't want to sign. He didn't want to sign. Like, he was holding his mother hostage, which is unbelievable. Like,
that's it.
What the hell is going on? Why? How come is this guy not going to sign this paperwork? So I told the old lady, I was like, "Look, I'm sorry for your son, but I'm going to go ahead and sign by 75%, and then I'm just going to go against him with the other 25." But that's how I ended up getting that property, and it was even a subject to. It wasn't even a slam dunk deal or anything like that. I just really wanted to save this lady from being a hostage. That's because she felt like a hostage. So tell me about, Logan, how you go about finding those deals where I know those are not the quick 3-week deal, right? Like, oh, I'm going to make $10,000 in 3 weeks. No, like, those take longer time. You got to prepare more. You got to dig a lot. Can you give me a little bit of the framework on how you do those?
In the early days, these deals would take 6 to 18 months, no way around it. But as we improved, we learned the process, the systems, how to negotiate better, the deals to walk away from or the deals to pick. So today, some deals we do in 2 to 4 weeks. Some deals take the typical turn time is about 4 months, 120 days. So about the same time it takes someone to do a house flip remodel, we do one of these. But we do a lot of them in 2 to 4 weeks. And what we're looking for is a problem with the ownership, judgments, liens, title issues, fighting owners, whatever, enough of a problem for it not to be able to sell simply through a title company. And that's enough of an incentive for us to go to the sellers and trade them down big time in exchange for buying for cash with no title insurance in a couple of days. That's how we get the purchase price low.
So is it like stacking? Are you multiple stacking, or like, let's say somebody's delinquent on taxes or whatnot, because usually you find those in like prop stream, right? Like you go on prop stream, so okay, let's see who's delinquent on taxes,
Yeah.
or and in pre-foreclosure, right? Like, is that what you look for, or is it, no, let's
Those are
go.
really good. So we have multiple places. We'll look in the docket search in the county to find judgments and liens, lawsuits among multiple parties, tax lawsuits. We can find it that way. We do like to look at mortgage and tax foreclosures because they do have a lot of problems like that.
Right.
Tax lawsuits is another place. Even a delinquent tax list is a really good place to start because a delinquent tax list typically means there's no mortgage. Otherwise, the lender would be paying the taxes. So you
Right.
already know there's a ton of equity. And if they're not paying their taxes and don't even have a mortgage, all they got is taxes to pay every year and they're not paying that, there's a reason. Like if all you got to do is pay your taxes, that's less than a house payment, that's less than an apartment payment. People are usually intentionally not paying the taxes, not because they can't. And if that's the case, there's usually something there. So those are the ways that we look. Now that we know the different places to look, we're looking for a certain thing. So we'll call people, and if they don't have major problems, they don't need an offer like ours. They'll sell to some
Of
other
course.
investor or a retail buyer and just pay the taxes off at sale. We want problems. The problems are there. That's when we start to get interested.
So you're very niche, right? You're looking for a very specific situation, like not necessarily just a tax delinquent guy, but maybe a tax delinquent guy that's getting sued by his partner. Or I get it now. Okay, now these deals, Logan, they don't typically close at a title company, right? Because you won't be able to get title insurance on them, right?
Right. Some people will attempt to solve these problems and get them to close through title. And we did that in the early days, but realized it was tough. After we learned how to underwrite and get title reports and make decisions on our own, it's actually a lot less risky to buy without insurance than people think. So we
Well,
prefer to
I don't
close
ever
without
see
it.
title insurance really paying out. Like,
It doesn't do what people think it does. But
exactly.
one of the kickers is lenders always want a title policy. So if you're going to use debt on a deal, which most people do, you have to get clear title and you have to get a lender policy. In our case, we're able to trade people down so far because no one can get a loan to buy the house or the land. So there's no buyer pool. So we say, look, first off, no one can get a loan. Second off, you can't even get title insurance. I'm going to pay it, but I'm only going to give you $5,000, but I'll send it to you tomorrow. Actually, you get paid $5,000 tomorrow and I'll take your interest in the property.
Right.
But don't think of it as I'm buying your whole property. I'm taking your seat at this table. You still have two brothers that are troublemakers. You still have an attorney general lien because you pay your child support. I'm taking your seat in this for $5,000. And if I can solve it all, I can actually become the total owner. But I might not, or it might take me years like it has you. I hope it doesn't, but that's what I'm doing.
Wow. So now you
So
get on that.
let me frame this. A lot
Yeah.
of people think, "Oh my gosh, I have to pay 200,000 for that house with no title insurance. That's risky." It is, but I'm not paying 200,000. I'm telling them, "Look, I'll give you $5,000 and you walk away." So I might buy half the house for $5,000. So I don't have 200,000 at risk. I got $5,000.
Right.
If that goes away, if I lose that or make a big mistake or whatever, not that big a deal. Like a lot lower risk than you would think.
What's the fall off ratio you have? It's probably not that big.
What do you mean?
Like
Oh,
you gave,
fallout.
yeah, you gave somebody $5,000 and you couldn't complete the deal, right?
We're at this point we're good enough to where we're not really making big mistakes.
Yeah,
So
'cause
if I buy an interest,
your underwriting is on point.
yeah, about 2 years ago we bought 65 owners out on a big property, and we ended up buying 3 shares of those 65 from some cousins who didn't own anything, but we thought they did. But we were incomplete with our underwriting. We were just working through it, and when family members were selling, we were just buying 500, 1,000, $2,000, 600, just doing it. We bought 3 shares that were worth nothing, but I think we're in them for 500 a piece, so we didn't really care.
Right. Yeah, you spend that at a dinner at a restaurant, man. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's the risk you're taking, right? So
yeah.
um, now, do you when you buy these properties, you turn around and what's your strategy on the exit?
Go to the listing service. We own them. We're not wholesaling. I don't have
Right.
anybody trying to go around me. I own it. Sometimes I've paid the tax debt off. Sometimes I've not. I've entered into a payment arrangement with the tax office just to minimize my expense and my risk.
Of course.
But at this point, I'm just going to the MLS because in my mind, MLS has the biggest buyer pool that are active and ready and the widest advertising. And I don't know what to do anywhere. Right to MLS.
By this time, have you cleaned up the whole mess, or
Yeah.
so now it's fully clean, so you can put a title insurance policy on it for the new seller now, a new buyer.
Bingo. Yeah.
Which, honestly, man, sometimes I don't even know. Like, I've been doing real estate since 2008 now, and honestly, putting title insurance policy on some of these properties is almost like useless. Like I remember we did a property where we wholesaled the deal to a friend of mine actually, and it was an owner finance deal. So the owner of the property foreclosed on the property to the owner of the time, the
Mm.
lender foreclosed on the property, and he called me. He said, "Hey man, I want to sell this property." He was an investor, and I was like, "Sure." So I went and put him under contract, got me a buyer, we wholesale the deal, and the owner went and sued the lender because I guess the lender didn't foreclose the right way. Man, that property got tangled up with title insurance for like 4 years.
Yeah. Like,
The
what the
buyer,
heck?
the end buyer, was paying a mortgage, and the lender put money on it because title was good. And he got into a litigation, and this guy couldn't put money into it for 4 years. Eventually, he was able to solve the challenge, but it cost him 4 years with a property that he was paying interest on. He probably lost a lot of money on that deal.
See, that's the problem. People think title insurance covers everything. You got debt, you got opportunity cost, you got all these issues. Dude, title insurance doesn't cover that much. That's why early on when we were doing some of these messy deals, I would look at it and ask myself, look at what the insurance actually pays for. Is that a problem here or not? Do we even actually care if we get paid this or not?
Yeah, so I told him you need to go sue the title insurance so you can get your money. And of
Yeah.
course, he went to the same title company. The title company's like, no, 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 because they have to go and put some money out of their pockets as well when that happens. Um,
Yeah.
anyhow, I just don't see title insurance being that big of a deal anymore. Now that I've done, I don't know how many deals. If I can actually save that money, I probably will at closing. Unless I'm buying my own house, or I'm even that.
Or
If it's
very high price sometimes, like you got a loan involved or
right,
an office. I'll tell you, over the last couple of years, we just ran this business. I got 20 people in my office. There's 21, including me. We're just doing this business. We do a couple hundred transactions a year. We do between 30 and 40 million in sales annually. Like that's kind of what things are looking like these days. And I just thought everybody's business was like this. It's a great business. We're all making money. The market goes up and down. And because our margins are so big, we always sell. We might have to lower the price sometimes when the market's weak, but our inventory continuously moves. The banks are giving all kinds of credit lines. It's just, this is our business. And I started talking about it openly several years ago and realized this is a good business. This is a special business. This is a durable business when times are good and bad. This is a high margin business. I didn't realize how good it was relative to many other investing operations. And when I started to talk about it, specifically over the last 2 years when interest rates shot up and things got really tough, I realized wholesalers, investors, house flippers, those are the people that were flocking to learn what we were doing because their businesses are just, they're on life support. Or if they're not, man, they're having to work their fingers to the bone to keep it alive. And they're seeing our business just rolling along. And I realized that's the person that needs to look at this stuff these days. If your business isn't what it was in 2021, you need to pay attention to us.
well, in 2021, everybody was a rocket scientist, right? Like everybody was a rock star. Everybody was riding that wave up, and so you see these guys making 5 to 10 million a year, which, by the way, they're not keeping that much. They're keeping maybe 10 to 15% of that, if that. Okay,
Right.
especially the guys that are doing fix and flips and wholesaling, because
Mm-hmm.
they got major, machines cranking out marketing, right? That
Yeah.
has an upfront cost. Um, I slow down a lot, but I'm not doing what you're doing because I'm not gonna say I'm chasing those type of deals, but I'm doing less deals with better profits. So
That's much more efficient, less hard work, lower risk. Like that's a very wise business choice.
I don't want to work my ass off like I was back in
Yeah.
2015, where I was flipping 40, 50 houses at a time. And
Woo.
yeah, and I had all these rehabs and all these works and all these crews, and the guy didn't show up on a Saturday, and I was like, oh my God, my jobs
Yeah.
are falling behind. And so now, are you rehabbing any of these properties, Logan, or you're just literally completely just sold? You're rehabbing the title. That's what you're doing.
Bingo. Here's what I found, and I've done some flips in the past. I had some of that in my background, but I started going through this dollar per hour exercise and asking myself, first off, when I really started making real money, I'm like, what's my time worth? Dollar per hour. And I do how much I made for the year divided by how many hours I worked. This is what I'm worth per hour. And that was helping me decide, do I need to hire more people to help, or is that a job I need to do? And I started to look at that across all things I did. And one of those was remodeling. And I started to find when I buy something for 50 grand and turn around and resell it for 150, I make 100 grand in 90 days. And it's all paperwork from my nice, cool, air conditioned office, no contractors. I'm dealing with surveyors, lawyers, and escrow officers. Those are professionals. They don't screw you on your job. They do what they're supposed to do. They have meetings. They knows how to use Microsoft. Like it's a professional grade experience. But when I was dealing with contractors, it would take many more months. My dollar per hour would go down. It's not a professional grade experience. And I realized my dollar per hour on the title cleaning and selling was like remarkable. Then my dollar per hour on the remodel just goes like this. I realized what I didn't need to do anymore.
Old England Hall says, if little old England from Bay City can do it, anyone can. Big shout out to Logan. He the truth. The buying out the deeds was the missing piece for me. Title issues is king.
My
Shout out,
dude.
man. I met England years ago in Bay City when I used to do a lot of deals out there. Um,
He brings up a great point, though. I've been doing this for 10 years. I have an office of private investigators, lawyers, like escrow, like title. Like, this is what we do. But we learned how to figure this out from the beginning and build an operation on it. But a lot of people today don't have to. If they'll show up and listen to people like us and learn the important parts, they're not having to read the estates code and the tax code and figure out how to deal with this stuff. We have the answer. So it's so much faster, so much easier than them having to build a full model. Just show up over here and get a little bit of guidance and you're off to the races. You're making money in year one instead of what we had to do.
no, hey, we learned that, I'm going to learn from you. I know that for a fact, right? This
Yeah.
is, we don't know it all, man. Like, we can only know what we've been exposed to. So in my case, I was exposed to rentals. Number one, bro, I hate being a landlord. Number two,
Yeah.
I was exposed to fix and flipping because that's what I thought was the deal. And guess what?
Uh-huh.
Harvey took my cookie back at the time. And then I started wholesaling and I thought, okay, I like this paper transaction thing. Um, but guess what? Like you said, 2021, 22, going into 2023, wholesaling completely changed. So all these people that have multiple deals going a month, 40, 50 deals, that went away. That went away. I know a lot of these big time wholesalers, Logan, and if one of them is doing 10 to 20 a month right now, they're doing phenomenal.
And they're not bad business owners. They're not worse business owners than they were before. But the buyers have gone away and the interest rates have gone up. So when you have fewer buyers and it's harder for them to make money, the business is just harder. And the pros aren't doing 50 deals a month. The pros are doing 10 a month now, 15 a month. Like it's not our fault. It's not, but it is our problem. So we have
Yes.
to figure out what to do about it.
Yeah, and you got a solution. I love that. So, can you tell me? I know we're short on time right now, but can you tell me the messiest deal you've done? What did it look like?
Oh man, there's a bunch of them. We have tracked down
think
people.
about that one that you were thinking about at night. Like when you went to bed, you're like, man, how do I crack this code? Right? Like,
The biggest troubles are I bought a property that had, I don't know, like 15 owners, and there was a woman living in it, and she owned a share. But we had to track people down all across the United States to help her aggregate her interest so she could sell to us. But one of them was a distant relative who she'd never met. He owned 2/3 of 1%. And he lived down in like Puerto Rico. We had to, not Puerto Rico, it's Nicaragua. We had to find a private investigator down there to track the guy down. I mean, he was a retired special forces. Like, I mean, this was tough, man. He did not want to be found, and he wasn't like hiding, but he just wanted to live his life in peace with his Latin girlfriend that he met. And he's like, I'm done with all the rest of this bullshit. I'm on the beach. We had to track him down and cut a deal. That was tough. And then the other one is it was like 65 owners over the course of a 4-month period, all owned 3 lots in a row in a big MSA that was worth $1.25 million. I was all in for $250,000 between paying delinquent taxes, buying all these shares one at a time. And I resold it immediately and made about $1 million on it.
wow.
But we had a you know, when you see those movies when they've got like a control center set up with like cameras with people on the ground, like all these experts.
CIA,
Dude,
Jason Bourne, dude.
it was literally like that. There were 2 of us in the office. We had a private investigator and a researcher, and then I had 3 people on the ground. And we literally went to the bank and drew out $100,000 in cash. And we're giving 10 to this guy, 10 to this guy, 10 to this guy. And we're scheduling meetings at lawyers' office, notaries, at banks, and sending the paper. Our lawyer was drafting all these documents as we'd cut deals, and he would email them over to the notary that would meet at the bank. And then we call our guy and say, meet him over here and deliver $2,000 and get the signing. We coordinated that for about 60 people, dude. I don't even know how the deal worked. Looking back, I shouldn't have done that deal because there was such a great probability it wouldn't have worked.
What's a deal to walk away from? Like in your, let's say you have I know your buy box is very flexible, but what is something that you would look at and you say, I'm not gonna mess with that?
You know, I want to make sure there's enough equity. People will tell me that they reach out and they have some problems, you know, a couple owners, a big child support judgment, maybe some other issue, and the properties were 70 grand. Right off the bat, I say, unless you get this property for free and there's only 5 or 10 grand owed in taxes, you're lucky to make 50. But if this goes astray, you have to file a lawsuit, the value's low enough, you might lose money. So like, I don't like to fool with anything that's worth less than 200 grand. You got to have value. And the other thing is, people feel like it's a badge of honor to round up 20 owners. Be thoughtful. I mean, if the property's worth $1 million and you got people that are willing to sell their large share for small dollars, then start looking at that. But when you got 20 owners and low value, dude, it's just not worth it.
I did a property in San Antonio.
We have such bad titles here.
Man, we had 26 heirs, and it took me 2 years to do the deal, right? One of the
How much
heirs,
you make? How much you make on that deal?
man, we only made we were supposed to make 115,000. The problem was COVID got in the way. So when COVID got in the way, it delayed everything, and then the market price of the property didn't support the 115 anymore. It was supporting, so we ended up making like 50 still, but it took 2 years to do, and COVID, right? So, but the one person that was holding everything back was the wife of one of the people that inherited a $5,000 piece that they were supposed to get.
She had a life estate.
Yeah. So we got everybody in the family signed, even though some of them didn't talk to each other, they hated each other, they had conflicts. They knew they had to sign in order to offload the property, and they were all getting money out of it. But the wife of one of the guys that was receiving the $5,000, she said, if he doesn't give me his $5,000, I'm not signing. So I had to go tell the guy, I said, look, man, this is what I'm gonna do. Make sure you give her your portion of it at closing. I'm gonna give you your $5,000 outside of closing, okay? And he's
Yeah.
like, all right, I'll do it. So that's what solved it. But that she was holding us out for a whole year. Now,
See, you're thinking outside the box, though. In that case, that's a lot of times what we're incentivizing people to do. I don't care who owns what percent, figure out what the problems are and who's your biggest issue. We've had times where someone might own 10%, but they get 30% of the proceeds. Or we just give them a little extra money, however we choose to do it.
incentive money.
And if it gets the deal done, it gets the deal done.
We had a guy that had a bankruptcy on, right? So he wasn't really motivated to sell because he said, look, any money I make on this property is going to go to my bankruptcy. I get no money out of it, and then I'm out of a house. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh, what if I cut you a $10,000 or I give you just $10,000 cash, dude? Would you take that? And he's like, absolutely. So,
oh goodness. Well, the risk is you've got in bankruptcy, he's signing a bunch of paperwork saying that he won't trade anything outside of bankruptcy. So that's a big risk on him.
yeah, that was years ago. So that's, and he's probably dead by now. You know, like I mean, that, you know, when somebody's gonna die, you know, like
Yeah.
he didn't have a bright future per se. But I wanted to help him. You know, like hey, and also he wanted to satisfy the bank because otherwise, okay, the bank forecloses on it. Now he's got a foreclosure on top. So anyhow, we were able to cover that. But I know we're out of time, Logan. Guys, Logan is going to be at a 10 Growth in Tampa, Florida, 27, 28th. He's going to have a whole hour on stage to talk about all these different strategies that he uses to find real estate deals. So make sure you click on the link below. If you don't have a link right now, put on the comments, I want a link, and we'll send it to you. Logan, how can people get a hold of you?
If you go to loganfullmer.com, you can find the website there. I'm on Instagram, all the social channels. Go to Google and type in my name. Boom. Lots of ways to get to us. We even got a podcast we started. It's just about dirty, messy deals. It's called Dirty Deeds. That's on YouTube.
Dirty Deeds. Go to Dirty Deeds on YouTube. Find him. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Also, make sure you hit like and subscribe on this podcast, YouTube, and all the different online platforms. Logan, thank you so much for being here today, brother. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one, guys.
Got it, my dude.
All right.